So it looks like Kratos is done murking the Norse gods, which has a lot of people already speculating about which mythology is going to get the smoke next, as if Kratos is the only angry buff man in video games to wipe out a pantheon. You motherfuckers have already forgotten about Asura, haven't you? I can't say that I'm surprised, since the titular game that he starred in back in 2012 didn't really make much waves. Even the stamp of approval by Capcom couldn't push this game beyond the weeby audience that this game was marketed towards, and for good reason. Anyone that's played this game knows that this is less of a game and more of an interactive anime pretending to be a game. Nothing that new in the medium of video games, as visual novels have existed for a while, but this isn't some cheap, cringy romance bullshit like that. Asura's wrath goes all in reaching the battle shonen crowd who like passionate men solving their problems through epic fights, and as someone that's a part of this group, I could already tell you that Asura's wrath nails down a lot about what we like about the genre. I'll get more into this later, but for now, what the hell is going on in this game? Why is this angry red man so goddamn angry? And what the fuck is going on with these Buddhists in space?
Can nothing quell my anger?
So Asura's wrath takes place in an alternate reality where humanity's still in the tribal days, Earth is actually called Gaia, and is constantly under attack by this evil force called the Goma. Attempting to stop this are these powerful demigod cyborgs called the 8 Guardian Generals, and their whole mission is to purify Gaia of the presence of these assholes. You play as one of these guardians named Asura, who along with the other guardians is empowered by an energy source called Mantra. Asura's daughter Mithra is the priestess, which means she's able to make this energy even more potent and channel it to the guardians. After some casual Goma slaying, the guardians engage the source of the Goma called Vlitra and manage to temporarily kick its ass thanks to the efforts of Asura. He's given the hero's welcome by his daughter and his wife Durga, but the sweetness ends quickly when he visits the emperor and finds him deceased. He's immediately blamed for it and has to make a break, but things only get worse when he finds his wife slaughtered and his daughter kidnapped. Confused as hell and already pissed off, Asura later finds his daughter under the capture of the other 8 Guardian Generals, who are now exclusively taking orders from Deus, who shows up not too long after. He reveals himself as the Emperor's murderer and intends to use Mithra's power to save the world. Obviously, Asura is not fine with this, but it doesn't matter what he wants because he gets killed and sent to Naraka by Deus himself. 12,000 years later, Asura reawakens with minor amnesia, but is now guided by this talking golden spider who leads Asura back to the surface. Slowly remembering the foul shit the other gods did, the rest of the game sees Asura on a warpath taking them out while also trying to save his captive daughter. 'God damn, this game is a decade old, not yet remastered, and it still looks more pleasing than some games today. Some really strong art direction really holds everything together. Not too surprised considering the studio. Yeah, CyberConnect 2 is responsible for this one, and anyone that's played their games knows that they're really good at translating anime art styles into 3D models. However, this game being its own original work means that they didn't really have to worry about making sure that this game looks like some other source, which means we get a pretty unique looking game with this one. It's not too often you see Hindu and Buddhist art styles combined with all this futuristic sci-fi shit. It results in some pretty striking character designs with the gods here. One look at these guys and you can already tell what they're about personality wise, especially with our titular character who always looks like he wakes up on the wrong side of the bed. Getting guts from Berserk vibes, especially with his rage moments where he looks like a raging demon even though he's the good guy. The Naruto and DBZ influences are strong with this one. This form looks pretty damn familiar, doesn't it? And Goku definitely has some competition with the feats of strength displayed here. The freaking scale of this game is on another level. Holy shit. I know it's played out to call the game epic, but have y'all seen the crazy shit that goes down in this game? This really is some DBZ level planet destroying shit, and as someone that's into that type of stuff, this shit is just cool to watch, man. This game doesn't need to tell you that these guys are gods when they're doing stuff like this. This also translates to the boss battles in this game where, even though they're mechanically shallow, they just look so freaking cool that you can almost forgive it. These QTE moments are both well animated and well choreographed. Lots of emphasis on the impact of Asura's hits, which makes the timing of the QTEs correctly feel a bit better than they otherwise would be. Sprinkle in some booming sound effects and some epic music and you got quite the presentation. Speaking of which, the music in this game, fucking goosebumps. This is one of those games where even the moments where you don't feel anything, the music forces you to feel something since it's so grand and poignant. Swelling violin crescendos, grand horns, that weird high-pitched African singing when you know shit is serious. The composer definitely knew what he was doing. Not to say that the story and characters are bad or anything, but the music really does a lot of the emotional heavy lifting. It also doesn't help that the music is mixed so damn loudly that you can barely hear the dialogue a lot of times.
In its current state, it wouldn't be able to demonstrate its true capability. At times, one must move stone into staggered wolves to separate its torsion. Not just for this battle, but the future itself. What?
Speaking of which, am I tripping or is the English dub actually better than the original Japanese? I might be biased since I originally played this game in English back in the day, but even now, hearing both languages back, the English voices are just a bit more convincing, especially with Liam O'Brien who voices Asura. No shot against the Japanese voice actor, but I do think that Liam's deeper, gravelly voice matches the character more. The rage is just so much more palpable.
My daughter. Ether's power. What did you do? Tell me what you've done with her! You will have to make me.
Probably my favorite thing about this game though is how it unabashedly presents itself as a shonen anime that's airing weekly on TV. Each level is categorized as an episode. You got those break for commercial eye catchers in the middle of each episode. The to be continued screen at the end of each episode, and you even got the whole next time narrations at the end of each episode that hints at what's going to happen next episode. Anyone that's watched any anime, especially back in the 2000s, should be familiar with all these little quirks. Only thing missing is a 1.5-minute opening with the goddamn TV rating on the top left corner. Man, if only this game played as good as it looked. For anyone that hasn't played this game before, you're probably looking at this gameplay and thinking, oh, it's your standard early 2010s hack and slash affair. And yeah, you would mostly be right, except that this game is nowhere near as mechanically deep as others in the genre. I hope you like the look of this combo right here because it's the only one you got, and you're literally just mashing B to do it. You got this spinning heavy attack with Y that you can throw out once in a while to knock enemies down, but that's about it. Actually, no, I do take it back. You do have these rapid projectiles that you could throw out, but they do like no damage and are mostly used to fill this unlimited gauge, which is a form that practically makes you invulnerable. You're going to be utilizing this pretty often since there's a lot of shit that gets thrown your way, especially with the bosses. Not only that, there's mad enemies with poison in this game, and it's the least annoying way to deal with them without getting interrupted every 2 seconds. There's no set amount of enemies to take down like other beat 'em ups. Instead, you have to build this burst meter to the top, which only then allows you to proceed to the next segment. Yeah, there's no actual levels in this game, just arena fights, which I would be fine with if there was a little bit more to the combat. There's not even a block or parry mechanic to play around with defensively. The best you have is this dash that gets you nowhere. Suffice to say, spamming the same moves every encounter made the combat pretty mind-numbing after a while, especially when you got to go against the bigger enemies like the elephant, where the only true way to make progress against them is to do this button prompt. Looks cool the first couple of times you have to do it, but having to do it every 5 seconds gets annoying fast. You play as Yasha for a couple levels, but it doesn't really change the combat one bit. He plays like Asura, with the only differences being aesthetics. Yasha's animations are a lot quicker, and instead of red energy, he fights with blue energy. That's it though. Well, at least his theme is pretty cool. Never thought I would welcome rail shooting segments in a hack and slash game, but here we are, I guess. I didn't even look forward to these segments all that much, just any deviation in the gameplay would have sufficed. Even with these parts though, you run into the same issues as the beat 'em up parts, where there's not much to them mechanically. You just kind of wait around for these lock-ons to lock on and then spam the heavy projectile attack. You do have to dodge shit that's thrown at you, but it's nothing intensive. If anything, you can get away with just going in a circle a lot of times. You know, it kind of makes me wonder if it was a mistake to talk about these two gameplay types first, when it's clear that most of the focus was put into these QTE cutscenes. Yeah, make no mistake about it, this shit is the real gameplay. I hope you like watching cutscenes, because there's plenty of them. Told y'all this was more of an anime than a video game. Maybe a little harsh to say, since you do have to perfectly time these button presses in order to get a high grade at the end of each level. However, there's no fail state for any of these. Seriously, you can just put the controller down and just enjoy the show for the most part. Sure, your letter grade at the end will be dog shit, but it won't stop you from progressing through most of the game. Don't really understand why they chose to do it like this. You might as well make a fucking movie if the player's input doesn't matter. Sure, having to redo QTE events can be annoying sometimes, especially if it's some instant death shit, but I don't think the answer is to remove all urgency from them. Deep into the game, I kept thinking to myself, damn, all these cutscenes are cool and all, but I could just watch all this shit on YouTube and get the same satisfaction. This isn't to say that none of the QTEs are engaging. The moments where you have to mash the B button to Asura's hits always went pretty hard. In fact, the boss battles in general are the highlights of this game. The spectacle is turned up to 11, and there's actually a nice back and forth for how these fights play out. Especially during the latter half of this game, bosses actually have some arena-wide attacks that you have to maneuver around, which is a bit more engaging than many of the standard group fights. Oh, and look at that, the final boss actually requires you to quickly input the correct button prompts. Yeah, this guy was definitely the highlight of the game for me. Just when you thought this game couldn't get more epic, you ended by fighting the goddamn creator of the universe. Context aside though, mechanically, it's one of the few fights in the game where I was actually sweating a bit. This motherfucker has phases upon phases, boy, and that final QTE sequence just kept going and going. It was extremely cathartic to pull off, especially since the timing for these was noticeably reduced here for some reason. The DLC fights were also pretty tight. Yeah, your eyes aren't deceiving you. You can fight both Ryu and Akuma from Street Fighter, and there are no pushovers, let me tell ya. You can barely get any hits on these guys without getting flattened by a Shoryuken. I didn't even know these dudes were this strong. What the hell? They should be one-shotting everybody in the Street Fighter universe if that's the case. Regardless, these two DLC battles were pretty cool additions. It's pure fan service in a good way. They only cost $2 each too, so it's not like you're breaking the bank for them. Can't really say the same thing about the first DLC though. Not that you're spending a whole lot for it, it's just that if you want to get the real ending, you better cough up some cash. Yeah, Capcom's greedy asses locked the true ending behind a paywall. 4 whole episodes to be exact. The worst part about it is that these 4 episodes aren't some quickly put together bullshit either. That epic multi-phase boss battle that I went on about not too long ago is a part of this package, and there's so many other emotional story moments that really bring everything home. Oh yeah, I guess I should talk about some of that stuff since it is a focus.
I don't fight for good, and I don't fight for evil. I just fight. I will say it once more. I am you, and you are me. I am nothing like you.
So the whole theme of this game is that anger can cause you to overcome a lot of shit, and that is most definitely exemplified with our main man here. This motherfucker literally dies twice in the first half of the game, but because he's so angry, he comes back anyway. Literally the too angry to die meme, and I love how they take it to the extreme at the end, with Asura somehow overcoming the goddamn creator of the universe off of rage alone. It's actually pretty inspiring, even if Asura himself isn't a righteous character. He's actually pretty unlikable and one note for most of the game. His only personality trait throughout is
I live for anger and frustration!
But you still get behind him anyway, since the other gods are such pompous fucks. Also, they did do him pretty dirty in the beginning. He's also humanized a little bit by wanting to save his daughter, which I'm starting to notice is a very common trope in video games at this point. Got an unlikable, bloodthirsty male protagonist, make them a father. Now they're sympathetic all of a sudden. You'll recognize many of the character archetypes with the gods if you watch a fair amount of anime, but thankfully, their archetypes are tied into the lore of the game. The 8 sources of mantra are tied to the negative qualities of humanity, similar to how the 7 deadly sins in Christianity operate, and the 8 guardian generals more or less have their personalities tied to these. Each of these sources are the key to all their strength, but they also end up being their downfall also. Wizen is vanity. In every encounter, this motherfucker goes on about how powerful he and the other gods are, but he couldn't see how powerful Asura was until it was too late. Calro is sloth. Instead of dealing with Asura himself after Wizen, he sends legions of soldiers to do it for him, and even tries to flee before getting his ass crushed. Hell, this guy was even too lazy to walk for the whole game, but then again, if I was able to levitate, I would probably do the same thing. August is clearly violence. The dude loves the thrill of battle more than anything else, but it's to the point where he barely has a moral compass. The reason Asura becomes stronger than him and eventually beats him in combat is because unlike August, Asura has something to fight for outside of himself. Sergei is lust. The dude is weirdly turned on by many things in this game. Even when he gets impaled by Asura, the dude sounds like he's creaming his pants.
Magnificent! This is the rage I've been searching for. Exquisite!
Deus is obviously pride, as he's the totalitarian ruler of the 7. Pride and arrogance are one and the same, and his downfall was that he arrogantly thought that his plan was the only way the world could be saved. Olga was a nothing character, so I had a pretty hard time analyzing what her mantra was, but the only one left to give is greed, as wrath and melancholy are Asura and Yasha respectively. Asura goes without saying, but Yasha is a bit more low-key. Dude is easily the most introspective of all the characters in this game, and I don't think there was a single moment where he was satisfied with how things are. Really dug his dynamic with Asura, very Goku and Vegeta-ish, except none of them are bumbling idiots. Obviously, this game is influenced by Hinduism and Buddhism, so you can expect that some of the tenets of those religions to make their way into the themes of this game. The big one being the idea of reaching nirvana, which is a state of enlightenment that requires someone to go through suffering first. Yeah, that's definitely Asura. Motherfucker goes through it mentally, physically, and spiritually, but still pushes on, eventually reaching a state of peace at the end. Also, nice touch in having his real eyes come back. When I was younger, I didn't get that his white eyes was a visual representation of him literally being blinded by rage, but it makes so much sense since in the past, he didn't have it. Really sucks that the true ending is DLC. Yeah, I already know I went on about it, but seriously, the base ending of the game is nowhere near as satisfying. They defeated Vlitra, which was paramount, but there was still a fair amount of questions left to be answered. Kind of a side tangent, but this scene with the 8 generals looking fondly at Asura from beyond the grave has always bothered me. So y'all are just gonna act like he didn't brutally murder most of y'all a couple hours ago? All in all though, I really enjoyed this game's story. Brings me back to the days where I used to eagerly watch Toonami every weekend. It's hype as fuck, emotionally moving, and there's actually a fair amount to bite into thematically.
I refuse!
So yeah, that's Asura's Wrath. A hidden gem if there ever was one. This game needs a remaster ASAP. Not completely sold on the gameplay, but everything else about this game goes hard. With the games becoming more and more cinematic, I'm surprised CyberConnect hasn't given the format in this game another spin. An Asura's Wrath sequel would be unnecessary since all the story beats are wrapped up here, but if they did something similar with a new IP and it had some in-depth gameplay, oh, I would definitely be on board for that. Anyway, that's all I gotta say about this one. Like, share, subscribe, and all that good stuff, and until next time.